Good evening, everyone. So, on yesterday, I covered the document dump, so to speak, from the DNI. So today, I'm covering a subject I wanted to talk about yesterday, but I thought that that DNI dump was more important. So today we're talking about that gentleman in Jacksonville that got punched in the face by a Jacksonville police officer. So for all that don't know, there's a gentleman, a black gentleman, I don't know his age, got pulled over by the police. For what they say was not having his headlights on because I guess it just got done raining or whatever, and then not having a seatbelt on. So there's two different videos. There's his video, I guess a dash cam video from the inside of his car, or it was his phone, whatever. Probably his phone, like I have my phone set up. He probably had the same thing set up. And the body cam footage from the police officers. And so it is. They showed the footage from his dash cam or his phone. Shows him, basically, telling police he wasn't going to come out. He wanted to talk to a supervisor, so on and so forth. Would not give him license, registration, or insurance. Said that he couldn't roll his window down. His window didn't work. So, and all that. And then the next thing you see is them breaking his window, and then a cop taking a swing at him right in the jaw. I mean, just literally swung right on him in the jaw, and then they pulled him out and threw him to the ground. So when you watch the body cam footage from the police officers, it shows a different. It shows you the whole thing. So basically, they pulled him over. First and foremost, when the cop got behind him, he opened his door, and the cop's like, "Why you opened the door?" Well, my window don't work. And so that was wrong move number one. Then, I guess, he asked why he pulled him over, and then basically the cop told him because you didn't have your lights on, because, it's inclement weather or whatever. So a lot of people have been quoting Florida statute, whatever number it is. And they didn't have a seatbelt on. Well, I believe when it shows his dash cam footage or his phone footage that he did have a seatbelt on. So I don't know what that was about. But maybe he took it off when they pulled him over or whatever. It doesn't matter. Seatbelt's a minor offense. But they pulled him over, told him that it was, his headlights weren't on. In Florida statute states you have to have your headlights on while it's raining or fog or something like that. And so he asked for his license and registration. The guy's like, "What did you pull me over for?" He said, "Well, no, I don't need to do that, blah, blah," and he closed the door. Okay. Mistake number two. Well, he did a whole lot of mistakes. Let's put it like this. Okay, so they asked him to get out the car 7 times. He refused. He kept talking about he wanted to talk to a supervisor, that he didn't have to have his lights on, and so on and so forth. Well, first and foremost, if a police officer asks for your license, registration, and insurance, you give it to them. 1. 2, if they ask you to get out the vehicle, you get out the vehicle, regardless if you're in the right or not. Now, I have no issues with him asking for a supervisor. That's fine. But come to find out that this gentleman had a suspended license. Now, when police pull you over, they already know what they already know what's going on with you. How do I know? Because they've already checked your license plate. They a lot of police departments profile. That's just common practice. They've already ran your plate. They already know what they need to know about you. They already knew. They knew already that he had a suspended license. Now, one issue that I have is, well, why are you trying to pull him over for not having his headlights on? And how many people do you really pull over for not having their headlights on in the middle of the day? Again, it might be Florida statute. And yes, there were raindrops on the windows and whatnot. So, okay. Okay. That's fine. But they knew he had a suspended license. So my thing is, that why didn't you just pull him over and say, hey, we checked your license and you're driving with a suspended license? Why not just be straight up with them? Instead of saying, oh, well, your headlight wasn't on, which they may be in the right, I don't know the Florida statute, and you didn't have your seatbelt on. But what you really were pulling him over for is you found out when you ran his license that he was running on a suspended license. But the real issue with that video is that he didn't do what he was asked to do by the police officer. He was wrong for that. He escalated the situation much higher than it needed to be, because he was so into him thinking he was right that he didn't have to do nothing the police officer told him to do. You're wrong. You're already wrong. You're already wrong. You're already wrong. It doesn't matter whether you feel you're right or you're wrong. Do what the police officer asks you to do so it doesn't escalate. So that it doesn't become more than what it is. Now, when I guess the supervisor showed up and he was talking to him through the passenger side window that I guess he was able to roll down. Maybe, I don't know, but it was cracked. The window was cracked so he could talk to him. And he was like, well, he said he's under arrest. So if you're under arrest and they're asking you to exit the vehicle, you need to exit the vehicle. It's turned into more than just a traffic stop. Now you're under arrest. Okay. So I guess after talking with him for a minute, whatever, he just told because, like I said, his windows didn't work or whatever, and he wouldn't open the door. He refused to open the door. He was just sitting there refusing to open the door. I guess the supervisor, the other cop that was on the passenger side, not the one that was talking to him initially, and then more cops showed up afterwards, said, go ahead. And they broke the window. They busted the window with the baton. Once they busted the window up enough, another cop came and just took a big old swing at him right in the jaw. I mean, just took a swing at him in the jaw, and then opened the door, pulled him out, slammed him into the ground, and arrested him. Again, if the driver wouldn't have escalated it and would have just done what he was asked to do, because what turned into just a traffic stop, the police officer now said you're now under arrest after he refused to follow directions. If he'd have just got out the car, if he'd have just gave him this paperwork, then the punch wouldn't have happened at all. Now, I say that the punch was too much. The punch was too much. That was overkill. That wasn't even necessary. The punch wasn't even necessary. Okay? You busting out the window to open the door to get him out the car, okay, I get it. But you punching him in the face, I don't care what the sheriff in Jacksonville, the police and the sheriff are combined. So it's one big department with the sheriff overall in charge. The sheriff, whom I respect because he's been on YouTube. They have their own YouTube channel. One of my favorite YouTubers, Peter Santinello, did a whole episode on him. Real straight up guy, real good guy, real good police officer. Now has to stand up in front of the media and protect his officer and say that it was justified, when in reality that punch was not justified. The punch was not justified. There is no way that he should have been punched in the face. I mean, literally took a swing at him right smack in the jaw. I think knocked his tooth out. I mean, it was a punch. And I mean, again, the majority of the fault was the driver for not following instructions, for not doing what he was told to do. The majority of it was his fault. Because anybody with any common sense is going to tell you to do exactly what the police officer tells you to do to mitigate whatever might happen. You don't know what that policeman's thinking. You don't know anything about them. So to mitigate all that stuff, just do what they ask you to do. Just do what they ask you to do. 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 And so now, and this is the funny thing, because this gentleman's going to get paid. Okay, one, he got Ben Crump as his attorney, who he's a civil rights lawyer. He does all these kind of white on black cases. Okay, and let's just be real about it. Okay, whether you like the guy or not, that's what he does. Okay. And this is the funny thing, because when you watch his dash cam video or watch the body cam video, he looks one way in the car. And so when he did his little media thing, talking about it, he looks totally different. He looks totally different. He looks totally different. They got him cleaned up, all shaved up, his hair's up, he's got a nice shirt on. They know how to do it. They made him look like, is this the guy? Would you think that this guy's doing something wrong? I mean, they made sure he was clean. They did all that stuff. They did all that stuff. I mean, they cleaned him up good. And so the kind of moral of the story of all this, well, there's a couple of them. One, do what the police officer asks you to do when you get pulled over. It's just that simple. Have your license, registration, and insurance on hand. Make sure your license isn't suspended. Make sure your license is good. Do all the things that you're supposed to do. One. Two, if you get pulled over, do everything the cop asks you to do. Three, don't antagonize the police officer, even if you know you're right. Even if you know you're right. Do what the police officers ask you to do. Fight it in court. Fight it in court. If you know that you're being pulled over for something that being accused of something that you didn't do, fight it in court. Don't fight the policeman there, because all you're doing is giving them an excuse. Okay? And again, I support police departments, but wrong is wrong. I don't care what the Jacksonville sheriff said. That police officer did not need to punch that man. He did not need to take a swing at his jaw. He didn't. There was no reason for that. You already knocked out the window. You had access to the door. You open the door and you pull him out. It's just that simple. Was the driver being belligerent? Yes. He was being belligerent because he wasn't following instructions. Yes, he was being belligerent. He sure was. Okay? For the most part, the driver was at fault until that deputy or that officer took a swing at him for no reason. He didn't need to take a swing at him. He didn't need to take a swing at him. There was no reason for it. There was no reason to take a swing at him. None. He didn't need to take a swing at him. Other than that, they were justified in what they did. They were justified in what they did. He had a suspended license. And they knew that when they pulled him over. Most of the questions that cops ask you, they already know the answers to. They just want to see what your answer is. They knew he had a suspended license. And again, I think even though it might have been Florida statute to pull him over without his headlights on, I think that's bogus. Why tell him that? Why tell him that? They knew he was driving on a suspended license. And that's the driver's fault. That's the driver's fault. But you knew, so just tell them. Say, look, we're pulling you over because it shows that you're driving on a suspended license. Yeah, he might be mad that he's being profiled. Okay. But you're still wrong for driving on a suspended license. You're still wrong. You're wrong for driving with a suspended license. You shouldn't have been out there driving on a suspended license. You took the chance. So there are some things I disagree with the police on in this video, but for the most part, they, if the Florida statute that I've been hearing is true, then okay, they could have pulled him over for not having his headlights on. Most new cars now, you're going to have your headlights on automatically. Okay. And if Florida statute stated you had to have your headlights on 24/7 regardless, then okay, then you were wrong. But the argument's being made that they pulled them over because if it was raining, it wasn't raining heavy. Well, because it was raining, you have to have your headlights on. Okay. Again, I still think it was kind of bogus, because how many cops are pulling you over for not having your headlights on? I live in Alabama. There are folk around here that it's dark and they're running off of one headlight and getting pulled over. And there are plenty of folks that don't put their headlights on when it's raining, even though it probably is Alabama law to do that. But they ain't getting pulled over for it. Ain't nobody pulling them over for it. The police got more important things to do. So why not just be upfront and just say, hey, we're pulling you over because we ran your plate and you have a suspended license. And oh, by the way, we could have pulled you over for you not having your headlights on because it's raining. But the reason you're getting pulled over is because you're driving on a suspended license. and you're under arrest. At least be up front. Be up front with the person. I mean, police aren't really pulling folk over for not having their seatbelt on. That's just an extra added charge. They ain't looking in every car to make sure you got your seatbelt on. They ain't paying attention to that for real. That seatbelt charge is an add-on charge. They ain't pulling folks over for not having seatbelts on. Not for real. There are plenty of folk out here ain't driving without a seatbelt on, even though it's the law. No. I mean, they can, and they're justified to. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they got more important things to do. But now, because that cop, who's now on paid administrative leave, pending up an investigation, now the sheriff has to answer for his stupidity, and I call it stupid. Him punching that man was stupid. It was not necessary. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a former cop. I don't care what it is. There was no reason for that cop to punch that man in the face like that in the jaw. There was no reason for it. Yeah, knock out that glass, open his door, and pull him out. Yes. But punch him in the face, that's no doubt. They're going to win in court. They're going to win in court. He's going to sue. Van Crump is going to make millions, and this other guy, and the defendant, the driver, is going to make money too. He'll be a millionaire here in about another 6 months. He'll be starting his celebrity career. Even though he was very much in the wrong. First, for driving with a suspended license. 2, not showing them his license, registration, and insurance. And 3, being belligerent and not getting out of the car. The cop told him 7 times to exit the vehicle. Cop only got to tell you once. And the cop that was telling him to get out of the vehicle, I don't believe was the cop that punched him. I believe that was another cop that came on the scene after the fact. So that cop was extremely patient. And then I believe the supervisor did come on the scene, or a sergeant, and that's who he was talking to through the passenger window. If you watch some of the body cam footage. Still saying he was right and the cop was wrong. When you get pulled over, I don't care for what, do what the cops tell you to do. Because stuff like that punch happens. I'm not saying it's a common thing. It's not. But stuff like that can happen because people get frustrated. People get tired of repeating the same thing. Stuff happens. Okay? Again, I'm not justifying it. Stuff happens. Most cops are good cops. But there's always going to be those few that are going to take the liberty in doing that and then justify it by saying we were justified by doing it because he was being belligerent. No, there's no justification just punching somebody in the face just because they didn't get out the car. Because even though he was being belligerent, he wasn't trying to fight the cops physically. He wasn't trying to swing at them. He wasn't doing anything like that. He wasn't cussing them out. He wasn't cussing them out. He was being belligerent because he wasn't doing what he was told. But he wasn't cussing them out. He wasn't calling them out of their name. He wasn't doing any of that. And when I say he was being belligerent, it's because he wasn't following instructions. The cop told him to get out the vehicle. He's supposed to get out the vehicle. The cop tells you to get out the vehicle, get out the vehicle. Regardless if you was right or wrong, get out the vehicle. And some people, it's like, well, he was a black man, the cop was white. They're always going to bring race into it. Same old story. And that's why Ben Crump is involved, because he's a black man that got punched by a white cop. That's the only reason he's involved. Okay? If it was a white guy, he would have been involved. Okay? But the simple fact of the matter is there were black cops on the scene. No, they're not the ones that punched him. But they were one of the ones that tackled him. Okay? So, again, the sheriff is doing what the sheriff do in trying to justify that his deputy or his officer was justified. And the sheriff is probably like, man, why you do something stupid like that? Now I got to come in front of the media and explain why, try to justify what you did. Why you do that? Why you do that? Because that sheriff in Jacksonville, from what I've seen, is a good dude. Excellent cop. Very open, very transparent. Because he showed Peter Santinello everything. All that he could show him. Very open, very transparent. Been a cop for decades. Decades. And a black sheriff at that. Not that really matters. A good cop is a good cop. But I think he's only, the second or third black deputy. Black deputy in the city of Jacksonville. If I remember that video correctly. So, yeah, the man was wrong for not doing what the policeman asked him to do. First, he was wrong for opening the door, because that's not what you do when a policeman arrives. You don't get out the car, you don't open the door. You wait for him to give you instructions. If he'd have waited till the cop got to the door and say, and then you wait and say, hey, my window don't work, can I open the door? Yeah, go ahead, open the door. License, registration, insurance. It's in my glove compartment. Can I go in there and get it? Yes, go ahead and go in your glove compartment and grab your thing. You have to do that kind of stuff because he don't know if you have a gun in the glove compartment. So, he told him, keep your hands where I can see them. As far as I know, that's what he did do that much. So every time you move to go get someone, hey, I'm going to the glove compartment to get my license and registration. Okay. If you have a gun on you, because it's probably legal to do that in Florida. Hey, I have a firearm in my middle compartment or in my door. Just want to let you know. Okay. You're keeping your hands where they can see them. But you're letting them know, hey, I have a firearm. Or I have a knife. On my job, they do surprise checks of your car. I don't have a gun or knife, but I have pepper spray. Hey, I have a pepper spray in my door. Oh, that's no problem, no issues. I let them know that so they know up front it's there. Even though they don't care, I let them know that it's there while they're inspecting my vehicle and checking, make sure I don't have any weapons on me, or drones and anything else that's not authorized on federal property. And they're random, and they do them on occasion. No big deal. If you ain't got nothing to hide, no big deal. They're making sure that you're not bringing stuff in, and they may do it on the way out to make sure you're not trying to take something out. They're making sure that you don't have anything that's not supposed to be on the property brought onto the property. That's just, it is what it is. Just like the police do random checks sometimes when you get off on exits and they stop everybody to check that, make sure that everybody's got license and registration and insurance. They do that. I've been through several of them. They do that. So, I think that what turned into what was initially a traffic stop got way out of control, and in this case the police made it worse by one of the officers taking a swing at him and knocking his tooth out. Took a swing, smack in the jaw. I mean, just laid it on. There was no reason for that. Now this gentleman's finna get paid. And it's not like, it's not like the police department is paying for it. The taxpayers are paying for it. The taxpayers of Florida are going to pay this man getting paid. The taxpayers are going to pay for it. Because more than likely what's going to happen is the Jacksonville Police Department is going to settle. Or the city of Jacksonville, county, whatever, is going to settle. Because the evidence is there. There was no reason for him to punch him in the face. That's really the only thing the police did wrong. Whether you think that it was bogus, what they pulled him over for, that's irrelevant. What's going to get him paid is that police officer took a swing at him and punched him in the jaw, in the mouth. That was one, unprofessional, two, out of order, and three, it just wasn't necessary. There was no reason for you to punch him. Yes, he was refusing to get out of his vehicle. That means he was being belligerent. Yes. So once you take out that window and you have access to his door, you open the door and you pull him out. Take him to the ground, cuff him, and call it a day. There was no reason to punch him in the face. Zero. None. No reason to punch him in the face. None. None. No reason whatsoever. It was just foolish on that police officer's part. And I guarantee the sheriff talked to him about it. I guarantee it. I guarantee the sheriff didn't like the fact that officer took a swing at his mouth. I guarantee it, because there was no reason for it. The other, I believe it was the supervisor or the sergeant or lieutenant, whoever it might have been that he was talking to on the passenger side. He tried to talk to him. They were having a conversation, but the guy just didn't want to budge. Just didn't want to budge. So basically what he did is he planted his flag on the hill, on whatever hill he felt that he wanted to plant it on, and refused to exit the vehicle as ordered by the police officer multiple times. And so whoever that was told the other officer, yeah, go ahead. Told him to do it. Bam, they took the baton and boom, busted out the window, one shot. Cleared out the window. Then another cop came and just busted him in the mouth. Then they opened the door and pulled him out and took him to the ground. Now that man finna get paid. He finna get paid. Because I guarantee you, Ben Crump, as long as he's been an attorney, he's going to get paid one. So he's going to make sure, not only, first and foremost, he's going to make sure he get paid. Because his take of the settlement is going to be larger than the defendant's. Guaranteed. So he's going to make sure he get paid. But that gentleman's going to get paid too. And the city of Jacksonville, the taxpayers of Florida or Jacksonville are going to pay for that. Are going to pay for the stupidity of that one officer. For allowing his emotions or adrenaline to get the best of him and punching somebody for no reason. It'd be different if he was trying to punch, he was trying to tackle, he was cussing you out, he was doing all that stuff, whether physical or verbal violence. Okay, fine. But he wasn't doing any of that. He was just being belligerent in a way that he wasn't obeying the directives that the officer wanted him to do. Again, the video doesn't show him cussing him out. Neither video shows him cussing out. Neither video shows him trying to be physical with these officers. He just refused to open the door and get out the vehicle. That was it. He didn't cuss him out. But he was belligerent for not following directions. Which is like pull over 101. Do what the officer tells you to do, regardless if you think he's right or wrong. He or she is right or wrong. Because in the end, you want to go home. In the end, you don't want to end up in a cell. In the end, you can fight it in court if you know that what he or she pulls you over for is wrong. Period. Fight it in court. Better than you getting punched. Better than you getting tackled. Better than you doing all kinds of stuff. And you go home. And guess what? If he wasn't driving with a suspended license, and if he'd have just gave him a license, registration, and insurance, the cop might have let him off. Say, hey man, next time make sure your light's on. Make sure your seatbelt on. You don't have any outstanding warrants, whatever. Who knows? The likelihood of the cop just letting him off with a warning was high. But the cop already knew he had a suspended license. He ran his plate. I don't know what else to say. Some people ain't going to like what I have to say, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And if you got a comment, leave it below. Of course, as always, be respectful. But you may not agree, and that's fine. I'm just looking at it from my lens. Regardless of what color you are, these days, people are going to tell you, look, just be professional. Do what the cop asks you to do. Let them know and ask for permission. Let them know everything that you're doing. Hey, I'm going to my glove compartment to get my paperwork. Okay, no problem. Or hey, I have a legally registered firearm in my vehicle. May I pull out my license? Yes, no problem. I'm reaching in my wallet. Because the cops are obviously going to be jumpy if they can't see your hands. So you're letting them know, hey, I'm doing this. Hey, I'm doing that. All of this is to minimize you getting punched, abused, tackled, arrested. I mean, there's so many things that you can avoid by just doing what you're asked to do and being proactive in letting these cops know what you're doing. All my stuff's in my glove compartment. So I'm letting the cop know, hey, I'm going to my glove compartment to get such and such paperwork. I'm going into my pocket to grab my wallet to give you my license. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously you can't keep your hands if you got to go in your pocket. So you're letting them know, I'm reaching in my pocket to get my license. Okay? Or can I get my license out of my pocket? Yes, you can. No problem. Can I go to my glove compartment and get my registration and insurance paperwork? Sure. Don't give a cop your phone. I know we have all this stuff on our phone. Keep a paper copy of your insurance. Keep a physical license on you. Okay? Keep a physical license on you. Do what you need to do to diffuse the situation and not make the situation worse. You're already pulled over, okay? Whether you agree with it or not, you're already pulled over. So just do what you got to do to get out of there and go back home or go wherever you're going. Get it over with. Give that cop everything he or she needs. Let them run you again to verify everything's good, because they've already ran you once. They're going to run you again. And then they come back, either they give you a ticket or they don't. If you got warrants, they're going to arrest you. If your license is suspended, they're going to arrest you. If you got points, they're going to ticket you. If you don't, they may let you off with a warning, depending on what they pulled you over for. Always be prepared when you leave your house going anywhere. And I hear it. Well, it doesn't work the same, if you're black in this country. Okay, yes. There are incidences of that, yes. But to be prepared to be pulled over is not just something for black folks. It's for everybody. White folks, Asians, Hispanics. It's for everybody. Because every ethnic group gets pulled over. This is not a discussion of, well, black folk get pulled over more. No, we're not getting into that. Okay? Because it's not necessary to get into that. And the only reason you bring this stuff up is when a black person is involved in something like this. If it was a white person, you wouldn't care. If it was an Asian person, you wouldn't care. If it was an Hispanic person, you wouldn't care. Only that it happens to black people doesn't get on the news. Do lawyers like Ben Crump get involved, and it becomes a big deal. Folks are getting pulled over all the time of all ethnic groups. Okay? But regardless of all that, you have to make sure that all your ducks in a row before you leave the house. If you know one of your taillights is out or one of your headlights is out, go get it fixed. Cops have a right to pull you over for it. Don't give them an excuse to. Make sure your stuff is squared away. I mean, I understand stuff happens. If it happens while you're driving, there's nothing you can do. Get it fixed the next day. I've had it happen to me. Taillight went out. I didn't know it was out. Police pulled me over for it. Did you know your taillight was out? No, I did not. Okay, they went, they checked, make sure I didn't know criminal record or whatever else. Okay, hey, here's a warning. Make sure you go get it fixed. Yes, sir, I'll do it tomorrow. And I went and bought a bulb and replaced it. It was dark. It was at night. So it's obvious. In the day, they wouldn't have bothered me, but it was night and it was obvious. You do what you need to do to make sure that you get out of that situation unscathed, and so you can go back home. That's what you got to do. And it doesn't help that, you're refusing orders from a cop. It just does not help. It doesn't help. It does not help. It does not help. It doesn't help. It does not help. It doesn't help. It doesn't help that you refuse an order from a police officer. It just doesn't help. So anyways, if you got a comment on this situation, leave it down below. Like the video. That helps me out. That's how the algorithm works. I appreciate everybody viewing my videos. Believe me, I do. But you gotta like it too if you like it. If you like it, make sure you hit that like button. Obviously, I appreciate the subscribers, and hit that notification bell. I appreciate everyone that takes time to watch one of my videos. I really do. But I would really appreciate it if you like the video, or at least show interest in the video, And if you watch the video, then like it. That helps me out. It helps me out. And again, so I just thought I'd bring this up. I'm just giving my opinion. I'm not a law enforcement officer, so I don't know the law. One of y'all watching might be in law enforcement, and so you know the law much better than I do, and that's wonderful. And so if you do, fine, leave your comment, let me know. You know, if you know the Florida statute that they're talking about, leave it in the comment. If having your lights on, you know, in inclement weather, which I'm sure probably is the law. It's probably the law in every state. You know, let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Again, they knew he had a suspended license. That should have been the reason why they pulled him over. Period. It doesn't matter if you were being profiled. Everybody getting profiled. Police profile people all the time. That's what they do. They're police officers. They profile. Okay? Sometimes they profile the right person. Sometimes they profile the wrong person. But more often than not, they profile the right people. I'm not justifying this cop punching somebody. I am not. He was wrong and definitely should be on administrative leave for sure. Will anything happen to him? Probably not. But he was wrong. There was no justification to take a swing at this guy. None. There was zero justification for it. It didn't matter that he was belligerent and wouldn't want to come out the vehicle. You don't punch somebody in the face for that. There's no reason for that. Again, my opinion. I'm not a cop. Maybe that cop felt he needed to punch him out. I don't know. But I don't think it was justified, not the punch. Everything else I'm cool with. I think, like I said, pulling somebody over for not having their headlights on while it's raining, and of course the seatbelt charge is always an extra charge. Even though they can pull somebody over for not wearing a seatbelt, obviously. But most police officers don't. Most police officers got better things to do than to worry about somebody not having their headlight on, and at the time that the video was shot, it was barely raining. Maybe it was pouring down, and they saw he didn't have his headlights on. Maybe. I'd give him that. And if that's the case, okay. But again, all we can go off of is what the video shows. And what the video shows is that it was barely raining. And they were saying, that you need to have his headlights on. Maybe it's Florida law that you have to have your headlights on 24/7. Okay. Let me know in the comments. I don't know. And if that's the case, then that's fine. They had justification to pull him over. If he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, fine. You have justification to pull you over. Do most police officers do it? No. Because they have more important things to do. But they're justified because it does violate the law. But in reality, he was driving on a suspended license. That's the most serious offense. I believe they knew it when they pulled him over, that his license was suspended. So, again, I'm definitely not in the camp of defund the police. Definitely not. We need police. Every community needs police. And most police are good people just trying to do their job, and they want to go home just like the rest of us do. They want to make it home safe every day because their job is not safe and it is very difficult. But they're willing to do it. And it's a very difficult job. And you have to be, as a police officer, you have to be professional enough to know that your job is going to be stressful, that the adrenaline is going to run sometimes, and sometimes your emotions may start to spike. But you got to know when, you got to know when to do something and when not to do something. And to punch somebody in the face who's not verbally cussing you out, is not physically trying to fight you. It's not justifiable in my opinion. It's just not. It's just not. So maybe y'all think a little differently. If you do, fine. Leave your comment down below. Be respectful. I have no problem with people disagreeing with me. Everybody's got an opinion and everybody has different life experiences. I've never been a cop. I'm in the military, so I kind of understand when you're put in a situation that you got to do stuff in split second, like cops have to do it all the time. I get that part. But cops have to be professional enough to know that if I'm not in danger or this person's not attacking me either verbally or physically, then I don't need to be hitting him. I just don't need to hit him. I know I'm better trained than him. I know once they bust out that window, I know I can pull them out the vehicle, no problem. You don't need to punch them to make it easier. No, you are trained police officers. You know how to get somebody out of a car. You know how to enact force when it's necessary. And that's the thin line that police officers have to do every day when they're out on the street. What is justified force and what is not justified force? They have to struggle with that every day. And it's not an easy job. Policing is not easy. I don't care what nobody tells you. It's not easy. Okay? It's not. It's a very difficult job. And all the good cops out there deserve all the credit and praise and accolades, because that's a very difficult job that society needs to keep us safe. Period. I'm saying that for the people who might come on here and thinking I'm dumping on police officers. I'm not. But there's always bad apples in the bunch. Always. In every profession. Not just police officers. There's always a bad apple in the bunch. Always. There's always the person in the group that's not as professional as they need to be. There's always the one in the group that's more emotional than the others. You know what I'm saying? There's always, as my old ROTC teacher used to say back in high school, there's always that 3%. There's always a 3% that mess it up for everybody. That rings true in law enforcement and in every profession. There's always that 3% that ruin it for everybody. Always. And I have the utmost respect for the sheriff of Jacksonville. I watched the video with him and Peter Santino, straight up guy, good guy. I would like to work for the man. That's how much I admire and respect him. Follow him on social media, because I think he's a straight shooter. He's a straight shooter. He tells you exactly how it is, how it thinks. He don't mince words. I love that. But he's respectful. And he likes people. What more do you want out of a police officer? But then to have one of his own police officers do something stupid as to take a swing at somebody who he didn't need to take a swing on. That not only is that bad for the individual, not only bad for the person that was punched, bad for the cop, but it's bad for the sheriff, because he has to try to justify it. And now money has to be spent in an investigation. Internal Affairs gets involved and everything else to try to find out whether that cop was justified in hitting him. I don't see how he is. I don't see it. I'm not a cop, so maybe I'm not, the best person to talk about this. But I can talk about whatever I want because it's my channel. And everybody has an opinion, regardless if it's the right one. I don't think it was justified. Everything else I saw on on his phone or whatever he was using and on the body cams, I've got no issues with. I've got no issues with it. Other than the punch, Everything is fine. Whether you agree if he was pulled over for the right reasons or not, whether you agree that he was pulled over because he was black, that's irrelevant. All that went out the window when he refused to do what the cop told him to do. All that went out the window. So for all y'all conspiracy theorists out there and all y'all people that thinks everything is racial, once that gentleman refused to get out the vehicle and present his license, registration, and insurance, it was all done. Everything went out the window. He was now in the wrong. If the police were in the wrong initially, that all went out the window when he refused to do what the cop asked him and told him to do. Again, 7 times he told this gentleman to get out the vehicle. 7 times. I would say that cop was extremely patient, because all he got to do is say it once. Regardless if you like cops or not, do what you're asked to do to mitigate the situation, and so you can go home or wherever you were trying to go. Get it over with. Let them do their job and get it over with. If you're really that hung up on it, take him to court, get his name and badge number, ask for the supervisor. But do everything that particular cop asked you to do so that you can go home. Just my opinion. When I've been pulled over, I do everything the cop tells me to do. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. No, ma'am. Whatever. I'm big on respect. I respect the badge. You don't know the person, so you can't respect the person. But the badge has earned the respect, not the person. Let's get that clear right now. People are too hung up that he's white. It doesn't matter what color he was. He could have been a black officer. You respect the badge. Period. The badge has earned the respect. People mess it up. People mess up the profession, not the badge. The badge has earned the respect. People mess up stuff, not the badge. Or not the title. Okay? The titles have earned the respect. He's a police officer. That's a title. He's earned that. The police officer as a job and as a title has already earned the respect. It doesn't need to earn anything. It's already got it. The person does, but not the title. The badge has earned the respect, not the person. You don't know the person. He don't know you. He or she don't know you. But you respect the badge. And as long as you respect the badge, everything will go a whole lot smoother. In most cases. In the majority of cases. Not in every case. But in the majority of cases, everything will go a whole lot smoother when you respect the person with the badge and do everything they ask you to do. You get home a lot quicker and you get out of that situation and back on your way. Leave it alone. Don't try to argue with folk. Don't try to fight folk. Don't try to do none of that stuff. Do what you need to do to get out of this situation as fast as possible and get on home. Period. You're not caving in. You're not doing none of that stuff. The thing about wisdom is knowing when to use it. And it's wise to not get yourself in a situation that if you escalate it, like this gentleman did, you're only going to be in a losing position. You're going to lose. And he lost. Now, in the end, he'll probably win. But in that particular instance, he lost. And he lost big. He got his face smashed by a friggin' fist. And then got put on the ground. Because you didn't want to doggone do what the police officer asked you to do. How that's not wisdom. And it's not smart. And it's not common sense. Bible says if you lack wisdom, all you have to do is ask. Ask the Lord and He'll give it to you freely. If you ain't got no wisdom, all you got to do is ask the Lord for it. And, yeah, I got to try to get a biblical perspective in here as much as possible. So I just, when I saw that video, I was like, really? I mean, the police officers were justified in everything until that punch was thrown. After that, all that went out the window. But again, the driver was at fault for not doing what he was told. You just don't do stuff. You just don't do that. 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 I just don't understand it. You just don't do that. So anyways, that's it. I'm done. Again, if you have a comment, please leave it down below. If you have another take on it, by all means, leave the comment down below. But by all means, be respectful. We don't have to agree, and that is cool. Everybody has a different opinion and different life experiences. And maybe your life experience is different than mine, and that's cool. You know what I'm saying? We're not a monolith. Human species is not a monolith. We all have different life experiences, and that's what makes the human species, special. We're not all the same. So, yeah, we'll see how it works out, but more than likely, the police officer will be found justifiable, more than likely. And the gentleman, the defendant that got punched, the driver, will get a settlement and get paid. He'll be paid. And then he'll be all over TikTok and social media and be bragging about how, the police officer was wrong and he got paid. Because in reality, in a lot of cases, when you settle a case, you're not saying that you're innocent, but you're not saying you're guilty either. So you're settling. In a lot of cases, when you settle, more than likely it means you think you're guilty, but you don't want to take it to court, so you just settle out of court and they're satisfied and you call it a day. In a lot of cases, settling is really saying that you're guilty, but you just don't want to go to court and then be splashed all over media. In most cases, I find it hard to believe that internal affairs or whoever is going to be doing the investigation on the police officer is going to find that punch to the mouth justifiable in that particular instance. I ain't got no problem if he was swinging, you defend yourself. You pull out a gun, you shoot. You ain't got time to think about it. You don't know if it's a toy gun or real gun. You don't know. You got a split second to make a decision. Somebody point a gun at you, you shoot. It's just that simple. Now, where you shoot is up to you as the person being, shot at or pointed at. That's up to you and what you feel is justifiable in that split second. Do you kill the man? Do you shoot him in the leg? Do you, what do you do? Only you can make that decision. It's just like in combat. Somebody pointing a gun at you, you're not going to waste time trying to figure out, I don't know if they point a gun at you, you shoot. It's either me or you, and I'm going home. So that means it's going to be you. You ain't got time to think about all that stuff. He pointing a gun at you, he or she pointing a gun at you, you shooting back. You either shooting back or you shooting first. You ain't wasting time because you ain't got that kind of time to waste. You ain't got time to be thinking about it. These are split-second decisions that have to be made that cops make all the time. Do they always get it right? No. But these are decisions that have to be made. And I don't think that the punch to the face was a split-second decision. That cop knew that's exactly what he was going to do. He had plenty of time to think about it. I believe that punch was premeditated. And it wasn't necessary. Other than that, everything else that the police did, from what I see in the videos, was fine. As far as being justifiable. Again, you don't have to agree why they pulled him over. You don't have to agree with other things. But as far as being legally justifiable, yeah, they were justified. Because if Florida statute said you have to have your lights on while it's raining, then you have to have your lights on. If Florida statute says you have to have your lights on 24/7, then you have to have your lights on. Car just passed me, didn't have their lights on. But most cars, the lights are automatic. And I think you can turn them off. But in this case, if the Florida statute said that you have to have your lights on while it's raining, and there was raindrops on the window from what the video shows, then okay. There's no sense arguing about it. Okay. Then they said he didn't have a seatbelt. Okay. It looked like he had a seatbelt on, but okay. Maybe he put it on once he got pulled over. Who knows? All I'm saying is both those were minor offenses that you might have got a warning. You might just got a warning, especially if you had no prior, convictions or prior points or anything like that on your license. But you were driving on a suspended license. So it went from being pulled over to being arrested because you're driving on a suspended license. What were you thinking? And that man knew he was driving on a suspended license. He knew. That's why he was fighting so hard, in my opinion. That's why he didn't want to get out. Because he knew he was driving on a suspended license. He knew. Again, just my opinion. I'll leave it at that. Until next time, y'all. Again, I appreciate each and every one of you. But until next time, God bless you.